Hello, ladies and gentlemen of higher society. Let me welcome you to Medsoon African Motives, whereby we are going to talk about Business Studies Grade 11, Term 2 notes. We are on Term 2 notes, where we are going to talk about stress, crisis, and change management. But on this presentation, we are only going to look at the stress. We are only going to look at the stress. So the crisis and change management, we'll do them in the next presentation. So now we are mainly going to look at what? We are going to look at the stress. Hope we are together on that. So that. So now let us move on. So like I've said, these are our topic overview. As you have said, we are going to be mainly looking at the stress. That is unit 9.1. So the crisis in the workplace as well as change management will do them in the next presentation. So now we are only on stress. So that is that. So now let us move on to the business of today, whereby we are going to look at what? Whereby we're going to look at the stress. So here we are on stress. So as it says, uh, there are many factors over which managers and employees have a little or no control in a business today. So these factors vary and differ in a way it affects employees. So this is often affects or company or compromises how employees feel and cope in the workplace. It may leave them feeling overwhelmed, and the business should create an environment in which employees are able to find a balance between work and their daily lives so that they can continue to be productive workers. So that is that. When we are talking about uh, stress. So now let us come to the meaning now. The meaning of stress in the workplace. The meaning of stress in the workplace. Very important. So it says stress can be defined as a mental stage or emotional strain or tension resulting from negative or demanding circumstances. What does that mean? So, this simple says stress happens when a person feels pressured, worried, or unable to cope with difficult situations. That is what we mean. For example, an employee feels stressed when they must finish many tasks in one day. So you see now they are under pressure. That is why I'm saying this happens when a person feels pressured or when the person is worried or unable to cope with difficult situations. That is what you call a stress. So now moving on to a a second statement, it says the strain that an individual is placed under can affect their ability to remember information and can affect their attention span and overall efficiency in the workplace. Here we're talking about what uh, stress. Stress do affect memory. Stress do affect memory, attention, and efficiency. So, meaning to say, when someone is stressed, they struggle to focus. They struggle to focus, remember things, and to work effectively. So, that is when you are stressed. So, when you are stressed, it simple says you are not going to focus. You are not going to focus. also you are not going to remember. So that is going to affect your memory. And you are not going to work effectively. Let's take, for example, where a worker forgets important instructions because they are overwhelmed. So if a worker is overwhelmed, it means he or she is going to forget important instructions. So that's the memory that you are saying it is affected by the stress. Hope you are together, good people. Let us move on to another point. Now it says stress is a response of a person's body to anything that requires more action or work from an individual than normal. So meaning to say, good people, the body reacts physically and emotionally when more effort is required than usual. So that is that. For example, a worker feels tired, also anxious, and gets headaches during busy period. So we're talking about the tiredness, we're talking about the headache that you're going to have during the busy period. So that symbol talks about the person's body. That is why we are saying the body reacts physically and emotionally when more effort is required than usually. That is what this point means when you're talking about the response of a person's body. Hope you're together, good people. Now moving on to another point, it says an employee is generally referred to as being stressed when they are not able to sufficiently balance the demands of getting work done versus the amount of work that they must do. Here we are talking about we are talking about the stress occurs when work demand exceeds ability to cope. That is that. Stress occurs when work demands exceed ability to cope. Meaning to say, when there is too much work or pressure compared to what a person can handle, stress develops. That's what this point means. It means that if there is too much work or there is too much pressure compared to what a person can handle, then the stress is going to develop. We'll be together on that. Let's take, for example, and wherever we are saying an employee has 10 tasks due in one day and cannot manage them all, then the stress is going to develop. We'll be together at great levels. Now let us move on to another point, good people. It says an individual physical and emotional response to stress may be uh, may be debilitating, which could result in lower productivity levels at work. That is that. So we see stress can be debilitating and reduce productivity. Meaning to say severe stress drains energy and makes it difficult to perform well. A stressed worker becomes too exhausted to complete task properly. That is due to stress. Also, it says the strain that individuals experience to meet the daily demands of the business may cause them to be stressed and may cause high levels of absenteeism from work. You were talking about that stress can lead to absenteeism because we are saying employee may miss work because they feel overwhelmed or unwell. So a worker may want to take a sick leave due to stress-related headaches. So that is that. And that is going to reduce the production. That absenteeism is going to affect what? The production of the business. So that is that. Also, it says the stress may also result in low self-esteem and morale for employees. So here we're talking about a stress lowers self-esteem and moral. So it means stress makes employees feel less confident and less motivated. So, for example, an employee feels useless after failing to meet deadlines. So you see, that is going to lower the morale for employees. So hope we are together, good people. Let us move on. So now we are moving on to causes of stress in the business. Causes of stress in the business environment. That is where we are now. As it says, a heavy workload, unrealistic targets, and deadlines aggravated by time pressure. So here we are talking about too much work and tight deadlines create pressure. That is what we are saying. We are talking about too much work and tight deadlines and tight date lines create pressure. Create pressure. That's what we mean. So, for example, completing a week's work in one day, that creates a pressure. That causes what? Stress. That is that. Also talks about working long hours without adequate breaks. Working long hours without enough breaks. So working too long without rest leads to exhaustion. So here we're talking about long working hours. We're talking about long working hours without breaks. So that is that. For example, we find that working 10 hours straight without a break, that causes a stress. That causes is stress. That is long working hours. Hope you're together, good people. Shift system not properly designed and coordinated. Poorly designed shift system. Poorly designed a shift system. It means irregular or badly planned shifts disrupt routines and sleep. So that is that. Irregular or badly planned shifts disrupt routines and sleep. So that is that. So let us move on. Changes in job description and management or in technology. Changes in job description, management, and technology also causes what? Stress in the business environment. So meaning to say, adjusting new rules or systems can be stressful. That is adjusting, doing adjustment to new rules. That is where adjusting to new rules or system can be stressful. So imagine where you are to learn new software without proper training. That is going to cause what? A stress. That is going to bring what? A stress. So that's what we mean. Now it further on says, working at home to complete tasks not done at the office. That is that. So now you're working at home. So working at home after hours. Working at home after hours. That brings us stress as well. So taking work home removes personal time and causes stress. Hope we're together with people. That is that. Now you are to take the work home. So that is going to remove your personal time. And that is going to cause what? Stress. Now staying abreast of latest technology. So here keeping up with new technology. So you're talking about what? Keeping up with new technology brings stress. Because constant learning can be overwhelming. Because now you are to remain a keen student throughout the entire of your life. Because technology changes often. So that causes a stress. That brings what? An overwhelming. Whereby now you are to learn throughout. attending many meetings that take time and do not allow employees to complete their work tasks during working hours. Meetings now brings what? Stress. Too many meetings now bring stress. Meetings waste time needed to complete the work. So that is that. Work demands that affect an employee's family and personal life. So here we're talking about whereby now the work demands, the work wants you to be at it full time. You are to do the work that affects your family and personal life. So that also causes what? Stress. So we're talking about the work affecting personal life. So job demands interfere with family or personal time. So that is, for example, missing family events due to work deadlines. So now you are unable to attend family events because of what? The work deadlines. So that as well brings what? That as well brings stress. Hope you're together, good people. Let us move on. Also, inadequate training given to employees. Inadequate training given to employees. So lack of skills makes task harder and then it's going to be stressful. So if you are not given a proper training, if you're not given enough training, good people, that also brings up what? A stress. That brings what? A stress. Because now you are going to find yourself without necessary skills to do the work. And you're not going to be competent enough to deliver at workplace. So that is very stressful. That is very stressful. Managers who are not competent and efficient. So you're talking about inefficient managers. We are talking about what? Inefficient managers. Poor leadership creates confusion and stress. So it means if managers are not competent enough to lead, it means now that is going to create a confusion now to subordinates, to employees, and the work is not going to be efficient. Hope you're together, good people. Job insecurity, bullying, and harassment. So here we're talking about job insecurity, bullying, and harassment. So it means fear and negative treatment increases stress. Fear and negative treatment. Because if you are harassed, if you are being bullied, so you're going to have that fear. And once you have the fear, it means now you're going to be stressful. If you are ill-treated at workplace, that is going to bring you into a stressful world. That is that. Conflict with those in the business who have different beliefs and values. So you have conflict in the business with conflict with those in business who have different beliefs and values. So we are saying conflict with others, meaning to say disagreements create tension. So once you have conflicts, it means now we are talking about the disagreements because there are going to be a disagreement and disagreements create tension. So if you're going to argue as colleagues over work methods, that is going to bring a tension. That is going to create a tension. So that is that. Let us move on, people. So now it further on says the nature of interpersonal relationship with colleagues also brings what? The stress. So poor relationship with colleagues. So lack of teamwork or support causes stress. If there is no good relationship with your colleagues, that is going to bring or that is going to create stress. So that is that. The frequency of work-related travel. So here we're talking about frequent work travel. Traveling often can be tiring and disruptive. So weekly business trips away from home, that is tiring and that is stressful. That is that. Lack of accountability of employees and managers. Lack of accountability Meaning to say, when people don't take responsibility, others feel pressured. Others feel pressured. So one worker must fix others' mistakes. And that brings or that creates a stress. Lack of participation in decision making. Lack of participation in decision. If there is no participation in decision making, that is whereby now employees feel ignored and powerless. If they are not given a chance to help, to say their views, to say their opinions, so if they are not included, if decisions are only concentrated on a higher authority, the employees are going to feel ignored and powerless. And that is going to create what? A stress is one of the causes of the stress. Insufficient funds and vacant posts not filled. So we need to say not enough resources increase workload. Not enough resources increase workload. So you find that there are posts that needs to be filled. So it means if they are just remain vacant, so it means now there is going to be too much work on the employees. The workload is going to be there. Unconducive working conditions. Unconducive working conditions. We're talking about poor working conditions. So uncomfortable environment adds stress. An uncomfortable environment adds stress. For example, working in a noisy or unsafe office, that causes stress as well. A lack of power and influence. Lack of power and influence. That is when we're talking about where employees feel they have no control over their work. They have no control over their work. So, for example, not being allowed to make simple decisions. So that is that. Let us move on. Also, lack of teamwork and conflict situations amongst the employees. So here we're talking about poor cooperation creates tension and stress. Hope we are together, good people. Let us move on. So now we are on the importance of stress management in the workplace. The importance of stress management in the workplace. Importance of stress management in the workplace. Importance of stress management. Importance of stress management in the workplace. Importance of stress management in the workplace. It says if stress is not managed effectively, it can result in absenteeism, poor performance of staff, conflict, grievances, complaints, amongst other things in the workplace. Meaning to say, as we're talking about stress management, it means if stress is managed effectively, it can prevent, it can prevent, can prevent what? Absenteeism. Absenteeism. We are saying prevents a absenteeism. Prevents absenteeism. So it means this can prevent absenteeism and poor performance. And poor performance. So that is that. So if the stress can be managed effectively, this can prevent absenteeism as well as poor performance, because managing stress helps employees stay at work and perform well. A relaxed worker completes tasks effectively. So that is that. Also, it says stressed employees are more likely to miss work because they cannot cope or because of serious health problems. Meaning to say, if this is managed effectively, as we are talking about stress management, importance of stress management in the workplace, it means that one of the importance of stress management is to reduce health-related absence, is to reduce a health-related absence. Health-related absence. That is that. Because you're saying less stress means fewer illness. Less stress means fewer illness. So that is that. So now moving on to another point. Managing the workplace stress will minimize absenteeism and maintain productivity in the workplace. So maintains productivity. We're talking about that this is going to maintain productivity. It maintains productivity. Maintains productivity. Meaning to say, employees work better when stress is controlled. That is when workers can now be able to meet deadlines consistently. That is that. Workers who suffer from stress often make poor decisions and errors of judgment in times of crisis. And this could result in unforeseen emergencies. So that is that. So it means this prevents poor decision making. So if stress is well controlled, well managed, this is going to uh, this is going to prevent now. This is going to prevent poor decision making. This will prevent poor decision making. This will prevent poor decision making because we are saying stress can cause bad judgment. So stress can cause bad judgment. So a stressed worker makes costly mistakes. But if this is managed very well, that can prevent poor decision making. We'll be together on that. Now let us move on. Grievances or complaints that lead to staff turnover can be addressed if stress is well managed. So here we are saying reduces staff turnover. Reduces staff turnover. If well managed, the turnover of the staff is going to be reduced. Happy employees are less likely to leave. Happy employees are less likely to leave. They will remain with the business. So that is that. So now let us move on. Conflict and interpersonal problems can be avoided if stress is managed at the workplace. So prevents conflict. We are saying prevents conflict. If stress is well managed, the importance of stress managed, one of the importance of stress managed is that it prevents conflict. Less stress leads to better relationship. So there are not going to be conflict amongst the employees. So that is that. Employees are going to cooperate instead of arguing. That is that. Also, having stressed and tired employees serving the public may lead to poor services, unhappy customers, and can be avoided through good stress management. So once you are even stressed and those employees that are very tired, that is going to lead to poor service and unhappy customers. So this can be avoided through good stress management. So here we are talking about improves customer service. Calm employees treat customers better. Calm employees treat customer better. So the importance of stress management in the workplace is to improve customer service. It's one of the important now. Now let us move on. Also, it says stressed employees are more likely to cling to the old ways of doing things. by resisting change, but this can be managed through proper management of stress. So this can be managed through proper management of stress. So helps employees adapt to change. One of the importance of stress is that it helps, stress management helps employees employees to adapt to change, helps employees adapt to change. So if stress is well managed, if stress is properly managed, this is going to help the employees to adapt to change. They are not going to resist change. So less stress makes change easier to accept. Less stress makes change easier to accept. Hope you're together, good people. So also it says constant stress can cause many problems for a business since it can become an unhealthy working environment. So create a healthy work environment for us to solve this problem. For us to avoid this unhealthy working environment that is caused by constant stress, for the remedy for that is to create a healthy work environment, is to create a healthy work environment, is to create a healthy work environment. That is that. So managing stress improves workplace well-being. Employees are going to feel comfortable and motivated if a working environment is very conducive. So that is that. Too much stress can become a barrier to success and lower the performance of employees. So how are we going to avoid that? Too much stress that is going to come up with a problem of by trying to stop the success of the business. That is when we are trying by all means that we prevent stress from becoming a barrier to success. We have to prevent that. We have to prevent. We have to prevent stress. We have to prevent stress from becoming a barrier to success. That is that. That is when we are trying to, we know very well that too much stress reduces performance because we know a stressed team fails to reach targets. So let us prevent stress from becoming a barrier to success because the performance is going to be lowered if there is too much stress. Also, once the performance is going to decline, it means the business is not going to grow. The business is not going to meet its target. The business is not going to realize its dreams. They are not going to reach their goals. So it's very good that we prevent stress from becoming a barrier to success. Hope you're together with people. Now let us move on. Now we move on to ways employees manage stress in the workplace. Ways employees manage stress in the workplace. This is where we are now. So this is, as it says, stress in the workplace is a common phenomenon, especially amongst the employees, even though they have no control over these stressors. Employees need to realize that stress can be managed. That is that. So it says now, few ways employees can manage stress in the workplace. Few ways employees can manage stress in the workplace. The first one is that be aware of what they require in order to complete their daily task at work. Be aware of what they require in order to complete their daily task at work. Know what is needed to complete task. So that is that. What we are trying to say is that know what is needed for you to complete task. So that is by understanding the requirements that reduces what? Confusion. If you understand the requirements, that is going to reduce what? Confusion. So you're going to do that by understanding. Understand requirement. Understand the requirement. So by understanding the requirements, that will reduce what? The confusion. That will reduce what? The confusion. Understand the requirements. That is when you're saying, know what is needed to complete task. So you're going to know what is needed to complete task if you understand the requirements, and that will reduce the confusion. So that is that. Also, it further on say a self-awareness will assist employees to minimize stress. Self-awareness. Practice self-awareness. Practice self-awareness. So you can do that by recognizing stress. That is, recognizing stress helps manage it early. So if you can recognize stress, that is going to help you manage the stress early. So that is that. Also now it says consult their work schedule to identify potential stressful situations and make changes to the schedule where possible. So here we are saying plan work schedules. Here we are saying plan work schedules. That is that. So you're doing that by making sure that you organize tasks. Organizing tasks reduces pressure. Organize tasks, and by organizing the task, that is going to reduce a pressure. So that is that. So now let us move on. Ensure that effective time management strategies are practiced. So here we are saying use time management. Use what? Time management. Use time management. Use time management. So managing time prevents last minute stress. So that is that. Completing tasks before deadlines. That is what we mean. Try to avoid conflict situations with co-workers. Avoid conflict. So by so doing, you are trying what? You are avoiding conflict. We are saying avoid conflict. So you're going to avoid conflict by staying calm. Stay calm because that will prevent unnecessary stress. So that is whereby now you are resolving disagreements peacefully. That is how we can avoid what? Conflict. It is important to get enough sleep and rest to perform work task efficiently. So here we are saying get enough sleep and rest. Get enough sleep and rest. So that is that. Rest improves focus as well as energy. So that is that. Take regular breaks to relax and recharge. Take regular breaks, meaning breaks help refresh the mind. So taking a regular breaks is going to help you to refresh what? To refresh the mind. So that is that. Follow balanced lifestyle by eating healthy, exercising, and participating in activities that promote relaxation. So now we are saying maintain balanced lifestyle. Maintain balanced lifestyle. This is, we know that healthy habits reduce stress. So exercising, eating well, and relaxing after the work. So that is that. So this is the end of this presentation. Good people, please make sure that you share with others, and please make sure that you are going to as well hit the subscription button. Thank you. Thank you very much.